Welcome back to the FA-18C. In this mission, you'll first learn to fire active radar homing missiles Mad Dog style, just as you would in dogfighting scenarios, and then we'll move on to using the F-18's radar to spot and engage targets beyond visual range. A reminder of essential controls is displayed top left. Of note, you'll need to be comfortable looking around and clicking in the cockpit for this mission, so remember that left Alt and C toggles the function of your mouse between looking and clicking. Press left Alt and C now so that you can look around with the mouse, and then press the spacebar to begin. Let's select your AMRAAMs. To do this, press right on the weapon select switch, which is keyboard left shift and D. AMRAAMs, or Advanced Medium Range Air-to-Air Missiles, feature built-in active radar homing, and can therefore seek and destroy targets without guidance from the F-18's radar or pilot. Today, your AMRAAMs are AIM-120C missiles, of which you have 10, shown on the HUD with AC-10. But the most visually obvious indication of AMRAAM selection is the large dashed circle in the HUD, which shows the approximate field of view of the missile's built-in radar seeker. If we launch now, without a prior radar lock, the AIM-120C will lock onto and attempt to intercept the first target it detects up to a 10-mile range. We'll start by engaging some unlocked targets at close range. Press the spacebar. Launching an AMRAAM without a prior lock is known as a Mad Dog launch, on account of how the missile angrily chases down whatever it sees, like a mad dog. A hostile aircraft will spawn to the right of your nose. Look for the red writing. To ensure we hit, I want you to wait until the aircraft is inside the dashed circle on the HUD, and when it is, squeeze the trigger or hold the spacebar to fire. I'm pausing you in 3, 2, 1. You now have control. Keep flying straight and fire as soon as the enemy enters the dashed circle. Hold the spacebar to fire. Whenever you fire an active radar-guided missile, the call is Fox 3. Watch how the missile launches straight initially and then violently changes direction to intercept the first enemy aircraft it sees. Splash 1. Good shooting. Let's do that again. Fire when the new enemy, who is slightly further away this time and flying from left to right, enters the dashed circle. Fox 3. Notice that while the missile is in flight, the lower right of your HUD reads a number and TTG. This is seconds and time to go. It's an estimated countdown until impact. Splash 2. Nice one. Mad Dog is as easy as that. It's mostly fire and forget within 10 miles and it's useful in close combat and high pressure situations, such as dogfights, where there may not be time or a need to lock on. Be aware though that in Mad Dog launches, the missile will intercept the first object it sees, even if this is a friendly. Now turn onto a heading of 030. In most scenarios, you would be looking to spot targets from a much greater distance and would use the same weapon, combined with the radar, to fire at enemies beyond visual range, up to 40 miles away, which is what we'll cover next. Press the spacebar only once you're level flying and on a heading of about 030. Perfect. I've paused your aircraft again and will now run through finding and engaging targets beyond visual range. What you'll learn in this mission is only the basics. The goal is to teach you enough to confidently find and engage targets in most common scenarios. The written information here won't skip until you press the spacebar, so take as long as you need, or skip past the parts you already know. Here goes. First, you need a basic understanding of radar. In essence, your radar is a transmitter that fires out radio waves in a cone shape and paints a picture for you by listening to what bounces back. You're likely familiar with echolocation, and radar works similarly, but compared to sound, radio waves travel much further and roughly 1 million times faster. Radar is a powerful tool, but it won't automatically see everything in front of you. You will have to tell it what part of the sky to look at, and how carefully to look. Press the spacebar. Today we're going to focus on the Range While Search, or RWS, radar mode. which is used to find targets over a large search area and when seeking to lock and engage a single target at a time. We'll also briefly cover the latent trackball scan and single target track modes. After today, you should be able to learn as you go with additional modes, settings and situations. Move on with the spacebar. Remember that left Alt and C allows you to look and zoom using the mouse. To start, take a look at your right screen, or MPD. This displays what your radar can see. The vertical line repeating left and right is your radar scanning in a 2-bar elevation sweep, with an azimuth of 140 degrees, displaying a range of 40 miles. You set the range of the square grid display, and your radar plots what it finds within the grid during each scan. Press the spacebar. Range. A range of 40 means that the top line of the grid display is 40 miles away. The bottom line is 0, or the location of your aircraft, and the intersecting lines show major range intervals in between. It's really important to understand that changing range does not change how far the radar is looking. It only changes what your screen displays. So think of range as a zoom function. For example, if an object is 60 miles away, but you're zoomed into a 40-mile scale, the object won't appear on your screen even if your radar can see it. So remember that until you know where objects are, it's a good idea to keep range high. We can't yet see any targets, so press the highlighter button, or right display push button 11, to change the range to 80 miles. Good. You can use that button, and the one below it, to change the range scale as you wish, but leave it at 80 for now. Remember that your settings determine what part of the sky your radar is looking at and how carefully it looks. When you selected your AMRAAMs, the radar updated to the default settings for the A-18C. Press the spacebar and we'll briefly talk. The images on the left will help. Starting from the nose of your aircraft, your radar is approximately cone-shaped. The radar won't see objects in the air if they are outside of the cone. Elevation bars. Elevation bars determine the height of the radar cone. The more bars there are, the taller the cone, and the greater the altitude range being searched. Your radar is currently scanning in a 2-bar sweep, which means that it has split the airspace being searched into 2 and is scanning those layers one by one. Note that different search patterns are available, but we'll ignore those for now to keep this simple. Press the highlighted button now, or right display push button 6 to switch to a 4-bar scan. Good. More bars means you are searching a taller area or more altitude overall, but it means the radar will take longer to complete each scan. Azimuth. Azimuth determines the width of the radar cone, centered on the nose of the aircraft. With azimuth set to 140, the radar searches 70 degrees left and 70 degrees right for 140 degrees in total. 140 degrees is very wide, so press the highlighted button or right display push button 19 to narrow the search. Notice how much faster the radar completes a scan of each bar when looking in a narrower area. Press the same button until azimuth reads 60. Press spacebar only once azimuth reads 60. In summary, elevation bars and azimuth give you control of the radar search cone. More bars means a taller search or up and down, and greater azimuth means a wider search, left and right. Importantly, the bigger the total search area, the longer your radar will take to complete a full scan, and therefore the slower the radar will update objects it finds. Press the spacebar to continue. Next, look for the yellow box in the top left of your radar screen. This yellow box is called the TDC, or Throttle Designated Controller. Use the semicolon, comma, period, and / keys, or your own bound controls, to move or slew the TDC to the center of that screen. Think of the TDC like a mouse cursor. You will use it to point at ranges and objects on the radar screen to learn more about them. Move your TDC to the middle of the screen, and press the spacebar once it's there. The TDC gives additional information about wherever you point it. Notice that the yellow numbers above and below it change as you move it up and down the range. Those are the maximum and minimum height of the radar cone at that range. See the image on the left for a visualization. So with your range set to 80 miles and the TDC in the middle, the TDC is giving you information about the 40-mile point of your radar. So in the example image, at about 30,000 feet in a 4-bar search mode, the TDC is telling you that at the 40-mile point, your radar cone's height is between 15 and 47,000 feet. Press the spacebar to move on. Now, every time your radar scan detects an object, known as a hit, it will plot a green brick on the grid according to its relative position. Remember the range scale. Notice that your radar now has a hit. It sees something, about 50 miles away. The radar will update the hit position each time a scan passes the object. So next, move or slew your TDC over the top of the green brick. Once over the top of the green brick, depress the TDC with keyboard Enter. Think of TDC depress like a select button. You may need to repeat them. Perfect. With that target selected, the radar is now tracking it and providing additional information. The star indicates that this is your primary target. To the left is the target's speed in map, and to the right is the target's altitude in thousands of feet. You may also see a small line indicating the target's direction of travel. Notice too that in this case, the F-18's radar warning receiver, or RWR, has identified the target as using a MiG-29 type radar. It's not necessarily a MiG-29, but it is using the radar founded one. Press the spacebar to continue. With TDC depressed, you've asked your radar to keep track of that object, but you'll notice from the green vertical bar that your radar is still scanning for hits. This is called latent track while scanning, and it allows you to find and track multiple objects at the same time. You'll see that a second object has appeared on the radar to the right of the first one. Just as you did before, slew your TDC over the top of the new green brick and use the TDC depress button on that one too. Press the spacebar once you've done this. Good. You now have two targets selected, and the radar is providing additional information about both. Let's get to firing. Press the spacebar. Splash 3, good shooting. If it doesn't happen automatically, press F1 to return to your own cockpit. And press the spacebar when you're ready to resume. Okay, you're unpaused. There's another enemy in the area somewhere behind you, but this one won't be so easy. Turn around onto a heading of about 190 and look for new hits using the radar. Quick reminder, if you're changing your radar settings, azimuth determines the width of the radar cone and elevation bars determine its height. If you're still zoomed into a 40-mile range, the target will probably be somewhere beyond the top of your radar screen, so change the range using the relevant push buttons. Find the enemy on the radar screen and lock on using the TDC depress button, enter just as you did before. You should find the enemy if you fly on about 190. Excellent work, you found the new target. We're going to approach this launch slightly differently, so I've paused you again for a moment, but I promise you won't be paused for long this time. When you're ready, press Sensor Control Switch, or SCS, right, which on the keyboard is right out and /. You may need to repeat this a few times until your own radar screen matches the image on the left. Only when your radar screen matches the image with a static vertical line through the target, press the spacebar. You're locked on. Pressing SCS right commands the radar to enter Single Target Track, or STT mode, in which it focuses exclusively on your priority target, the one with the star. STT mode provides very precise tracking and a very reliable lock on one aircraft, but at the cost of situational awareness. Notice that the radar is no longer scanning for additional objects. Even if they're there, it now won't see them. Press the spacebar to unpause. OK, I'm pausing you. 3, 2, 1. You may see that, in STT mode, the radar can automatically adjust range to optimize your launch. If it hasn't happened already, your radar screen might soon swap to a 40-mile range scale. Fire when ready. Fox through. Remember that upon launching a missile, your HUD and radar display a countdown, but you'll see this time that the HUD countdown is labelled ACT or ACT rather than TTG, time to go. ACT is time to active, which is a countdown until the missile is close enough to turn on its built-in radar seeker. When ACT reaches 0, the countdown will swap to TTG, which is the countdown until impact. Pay attention here, you may need to relock and shoot again if the target maneuvers or uses countermeasures. Splash 4, great shooting. Keep in mind for the future that as soon as you acquire a radar lock on a target, the target's radar warning receiver will let them know that they're being locked, and they'll likely do something about it. You've completed this mission and should now have a decent understanding of the RWS radar mode. It's great for spotting targets at long range and engaging a single target at a time. Remember that it's your settings that tell the radar where to look, and you won't be able to see objects outside of your radar search code. Remember also that the bigger the total search area, the longer your radar will take to complete a full scan, and therefore the slower the radar will update objects it finds. Good luck in the next one.